Robin wants to know when we can go live, so if everybody's sitting comfortably. Let's begin. Let's do it. We're live now, we Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Do we know if there's anybody online? 2 people online. Shabbat Shalom, people online. Sorry about the delay. I was waiting for people to sit down. There's so many hundreds of people here this morning. We're going to do service 2, which is on page 112. And
Sorry, Sandra. 112.
112.
Thank you.
Yeah. And you don't have to stand if you don't want to. God, a mystery surrounds my life. What came before it and what lies beyond it are shrouded in darkness. But in the darkness is your presence, and in the mystery your love. No mind can grasp the splendour of your being, no tongue express the majesty of your works. Yet there are times when we sense a reality that is beyond our mortal sight. May this Sabbath be such a time for us. Help us to hear your voice, to find your image in our souls, and to be at peace. Let's read together at the top of page 113.
My God, the soul you have given me is pure, for you have created and formed it, and breathed it into me, and you sustain it within me. So long as there is a soul within me, I will give thanks to you.
Eternal One, my God, and God of my ancestors, sovereign of all worlds, guide of every human soul.
We praise you, O God, in whose hands the souls of the living
And the spirits. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, v'kulau b'fi hamo, v'shuva v'fo'ah v'shor chasidav v'achitav, v'shvachot v'zmirot. V'gavdelcha v'namlichecha malkeinu yachid hei ha'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai melech mechulal v'tishbach. To you the stars of morning sing, from you their radiance bright did spring, and steadfast in their vigils day and night, your angels, flooded with fervour, ring your praise. They teach the holy ones to bring into your house the breath of early light. And you'll read responsibly. The heavens declare the glory of God. The sky proclaims God's handiwork. Day unto day utters speech. Night unto night teaches knowledge. Yet there is no speech, there are no words. And still their call goes out to all the earth, and their message to the end of the world. God's teaching is perfect. God's word is unfailing,
making wise the simple,
God's precepts are right,
delighting the mind,
God's commandments are clear,
enlightening the eyes,
God's doctrine is pure,
enduring forever,
God's guidance is true,
and altogether just.
That's a passage that we've got somewhere else in the prayer book, isn't it? Yeah, and I think in the family service book as well. No, it came from Psalm 19. Yeah, the end of the Torah service. They are more to be desired than gold, than any amount of fine gold.
Sweeter than honey from the honeycomb.
Your servant pays heed to them.
For in keeping them much depends.
Who is aware of errors?
Cleanse me therefore of unconscious sins.
Hold back your servant also from willful sins.
But then will not control me.
Then I shall be blameless. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Stand if you're able. Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu, Ha'el Melech HaGadol VaHaKadosh, Hashamayim u'Ha'aretz, Ki Lecha Adonai, Ki Lecha Na'eh Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu, Shir U'Shvacha, Halel V'Zimra, Barachot V'Hoda'ot, Me'ata Ba'at Olam, Baruch Atah Adonai. Okay, I think we're going to stay standing if you're standing. We turn to page 135. Let's do sit. Sorry, a bit croaky this morning. Okay, well let's read together at the top of the page. We praise you, eternal God, Sovereign of the universe, maker of light and creator of darkness, author of peace and creator of all things. In your mercy you light the earth and all who live on it, and in your goodness you renew creation continually day by day. Manifold your works, O God, with wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork claims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory. We praise you, O God, creator of our light. Somebody like to read the next paragraph? Sandra.
Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching. Make us faithful to your commandments and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity.
We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. So now we're up to the Shema on page 137. You may stand for it. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael לעולם
ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו, לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
אהבת
בית אדוני אלוהיך, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושמעתם בבניך ותגרתם,
בשבתך
בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ושבתך במקומך,
ושרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוב.
למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים ללכם. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני, אדוני אלוהיכם.
Would you like to read the next paragraph?
Barbara.
Good and beautiful and true, signed, established, and enduring are these words, now and forever. True it is, eternal one, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestry. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are the first and you are the last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song.
Yam bam 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 bim bam. Yam bam 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 bim bam. Ah yeah 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 bam bam bim bam. Ah yeah 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 bam bam bim bam. Me kamocha elim Adonai. Me kamocha Kodesh, no Radinot, Hosefele, no Radinot, Hosefele.
Nobody know that one?
Lovely.
Oh, right.
Beautiful.
I'm getting ready. I'm going on a Yiddish song week this week, the whole week, so I'm getting into iron.
Excellent.
Okay, we're in the middle of page 139.
שירה חדשה שנקראו בעולה לשמחה על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו וניחו ואמרו, אדוני אלוהינו לעולם ועד. צאן ישראל ומעל עזרת ישראל, גואלנו אדוני, צבאות שלום קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל, גאל ישראל, ישראל.
Okay, we're on page 140. Please stand if you are fit. So,
Adonai Sevatita Ufia Itrahilatecha, eternal God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu 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 Eloheinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah,
אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, יהיה המתים. נקדש שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך. קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא הארץ כבודו. כבוד מלא עולם. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. Page 142, if anyone's looking. למקום המלכנו תכריח ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לה. למלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, טוב אדון, hallelujah. You may sit at this point. Let's do the door. Logged in after I said the original hello. Okay, we're on the bottom of page 142. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful and good. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי שבת וגואלי עמי, המקדשי שביעי, המקדשי שביעי, כולם ישמחו ויתאגו בדבריך, והשביעי, to read the next paragraph. Tina.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladness with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace.
We praise you, O God, who hosts us for the Sabbath. On page 144. Say Adonai Eloheinu v'amcha Yisrael, v'tefilatan v'ahava tekabel, v'tehil ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amnecha, baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha v'vatecha v'yirah ma'avod. Let's read together. We give thanks that you, eternal one, are our God, as you are God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank and praise you for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your keeping, the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. We praise your God, source of goodness, to whom our thanks are due. Sim shalom tov ha'ufra, ein v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Amen. Repeat. Sim shalom tov ha'ufra, ein v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Barcheinu Avinu, Avinu, Barcheinu Avinu, Avinu, Kulanu Ka'echad, Ka'echad, Be'or Ka'echad. Barcheinu Avinu, Avinu, Barcheinu Avinu, Avinu, Kulanu Ka'echad, Ka'echad, Be'or grant peace, welfare, and blessing, grace, love, and mercy to us and to all Israel, your people. As a loving parent, bless us with the light of your presence. For by the light of your presence, eternal God, you have revealed to us the law of life, a love of kindness and righteousness, blessing and mercy, life and peace. For it is good in your sight that your people Israel and all people be blessed at all times with your gift of peace. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. And let's have a few moments for silent prayer. Shalom Aleinu, Kol Israel. Say shalom, say shalom. Shalom Aleinu, Kol Israel. Say shalom, say shalom. Shalom Aleinu, Kol Israel. Say shalom. Say shalom, shalom. always do this, but there's this prayer book has a section of readings that go with each Torah portion, and the one for this week is the Torah. So we might just read a bit of it, not necessarily all of it. So we start on page 329. When God gave the Torah, no bird chirped, no fowl flew, no ox bellowed. The Ophanim did not take wing, the seraphim did not proclaim God's holiness, the sea did not stir, no creature uttered a sound. The world was silent and still, and a divine voice spoke. I am the eternal one, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. The Torah was given openly and publicly, in no man's land, so that anyone who wished might come and accept it. The divine voice spoke to 70 voices in 70 languages, so that all nations should understand. It came to every Israelite according to his or her capacity to understand. Children and babies, all according to their capacity to understand. Sinai was only the beginning. The Torah has never ceased to grow. In every age it has been refined and enlarged. It has a permanent core and an expanding periphery. It expands as the horizon of human vision grows. Plants are fruitful and multiply, so the words of Torah are fruitful and multiply. So let's turn over to page 332. Let us give thanks for our religious heritage. May we receive it gratefully, study it reverently, interpret it wisely, and pass it on to future generations as a fountain of life and a pathway to redemption. God bless our worship of today. May the gleams of your light, the visions of your truth, which bless us here, abide with us when we go out into the world, keeping us steadfast in loyalty to you and your commandments. Amen. And then at the bottom, so that now brings us to the Torah service, which is on page 481. So, 481. Now, if you're going to want to follow along with the Torah reading, I put some Chumash in just there, and I gave one to Mary to tell you what the page was. Was it
764? 764 or 765?
Yeah, it's going to be 765. So if you want to pick up one of those books, that's in Sasino, right? If you want to pick up one of those books there, it's going to be on page 765. If you've got a completely different Chumash or Bible and you want to know what the chapter is, it's going to be Deuteronomy chapter 5 at the beginning. So I just mention that before we start. Okay, so now we're on page 481. Mevorach le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'chalanu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. So I'm going to start off in Hebrew and then I'm going to carry on in English for a bit. So I'm starting at the beginning of Deuteronomy 5 verse 1. Vayikra Moshe el kol Yisrael v'yomer alehem Shema Yisrael et harukim ve'et hamishpatim asher anochi dover ba'aznechem hayom v'yamadatem otam v'shemartem la'asotam. Adonai Eloheinu karat imanu barit b'horeb lo et avotenu karat Adonai et habarit hazot ki itanu anachnu ele po hayom kulam chayim panim b'panim diber Adonai imachem b'char mitoch ha'esh. So I'm going to go back to the beginning and then I'm going to read the rest in English. Moses summoned all Israel and said to them, "Hear, O Israel, the laws and regulations that I proclaim in your hearing today. Learn them and be careful to observe them. The Eternal our God made a covenant with us at Horeb. It was not with our forefathers that the Eternal made this covenant, but with us, all of us who are alive and are here this day. The Eternal spoke to you face to face on the mountain out of the fire. I stood between the Eternal and you at that time to convey the words of the Eternal to you, for you were afraid of the fire and did not go up the mountain. The Eternal said, I am your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods beside me. You shall not make for yourselves any idols in the shape of anything that is in heaven above, that is on the earth below, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them nor worship them. For I, your God, am a zealous God, punishing children for the sins of their fathers, down to the third or fourth generation of those who reject me, but showing kindness to the 1,000th generation of those who accept me and keep my commandments. You shall not utter the name of your God in vain, for the Eternal will not hold guiltless anyone who utters the name in vain. Observe the Shabbat day to keep it holy, as you've been commanded. 6 days shall you labor and do all your work, but on the 7th day, which is a day of rest in honor of God, you shall not do any work, neither you, your son, your daughter, your male or female servant, nor your ox or donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor the stranger who is within your gates, so that your male or female servant may rest as you do. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Eternal your God took you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore your God has commanded you to observe the Shabbat day. Honor your father and your mother, as the Eternal your God has commanded you, that you may live long in the land which the Eternal your God is giving you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not testify falsely against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not crave your neighbor's house, nor his field, nor his male or female servant, nor his ox or his donkey, nor anything that belongs to your neighbor. Though these words the Eternal spoke to all your assemblage at the mountain with a loud voice out of the fire, the cloud and the thick mist. Then he added no more. He wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. Not actually me, of course. Okay. I'm just going to do the close of bracha, and then we're going to talk about that bit. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech take our Torah. So, I'm going to say something about. Jennifer. I brought them with and left them at home, but never mind. How could have brought those instead of the whole? Never mind. I remember what I was going to. What did we just read? Ten Commandments, yeah? So the Ten Commandments appear twice in the Torah. First of all, when God gives the Ten Commandments, and this bit, as you probably gathered, was kind of like Moses reminding people of what happened. Because we're now nearly at the end of the Torah. At the beginning of this week's Torah portion, which is called the Elchanan, is when Moses is begging God to relent and let him enter the promised land. And God says no, so that's another story. But then Moses climbs up, looks down on the promised land, and kind of makes this impassioned farewell speech and reminding the Israelites of the journey that they have been on and the lessons that they need to take with them. So, when the Ten Commandments appear twice, are they exactly the same? No. There's a couple of, there's a few differences, but a couple that I'm just going to draw attention to. So, this version says, honour your father and your mother. And the original version says, honour your mother and your father. So that's really interesting because it kind of shows that the parents are equal, because it's you've got the two different versions. And the other one that's an interesting one is this one says observe the Shabbat day, Shamor et Yom Shabbat. And what does the other one say? Keep. Remember, yeah, it's Zachor. The other one says remember the Shabbat day. And if you remember when we sing L'chad Odi, it's got Shamor, Zachor, yeah, it's got both of those, remember and observe. So there's, as you can well imagine, lots of rabbis have discussed the difference between observe and remember the Shabbat day, and one even came up with the theory that God said both of them at the same time, so it saves us having to wonder. So that's interesting. But this is a really interesting Torah portion because having just read one super famous bit, which was the Ten Commandments, if we just, that was in chapter 5, if you're looking, it doesn't matter if you're not looking, if you just flip over to chapter 6 of Deuteronomy, we get this, verse 4. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, v'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavecha, etc. So this portion has got not only the Ten Commandments, but the Shema. This is where the Shema comes from, Deuteronomy chapter 6, and Moses in his farewell speech. So that's chapter 6, verse 4. And now I just want to mention something a bit later in Deuteronomy 6, which is verses 17 to 18. But first I just want to tell you a little story. If anybody was looking at the KLS Facebook group last night, you'll have seen that I trailed this little bit, because I said that I host school visits here. Okay, we have lots of school groups coming in, they're usually primary school. And, you know, they look at the Ark and we talk about the Ten Commandments, and I'm always asking them if they can tell me any of the Ten Commandments, and quite often they can, because quite often they learned it either at Sunday school or at school or whatever. But I had this little boy one day, and he said, "You shall not kick your friend in the head." So I'm thinking, right, actually that's not in there. How do I justify that that's not in there? So at the time, I said to him, "Do you know, that's a very good idea. I think really we should had 11 commandments because I had to say something. But actually, I found the answer in this Torah portion, because if we look at like verse 17 and 18 in chapter 6, it says this: "Be sure to keep the commandments of the eternal your God and the exhortations and laws which have been prescribed for you. You shall do what is right and good in the sight of the eternal, that you may prosper." So, if it says you've got all these laws, just been gone through in great detail, and you shall follow all these laws, why does it then need to say, do what is right in the sight of the eternal? Because you've just been told exactly what to do. So, once again, this is something that has been much discussed, and I was looking at the website of the late Lord Sachs, because I really like his Torah writings, and especially the ones for children, which are very good for adults. And so he talked about this, and he said that he thinks it's a really important line, which says, you should do what is right and good in the sight of God. And so some rabbis of the past, so Rashi, who you may have heard of, who was somewhere in the 10th century or wherever in France, said, well, the laws that are set out are like the bare minimum. You can go beyond the call of duty. You can do a bit more. So you could probably do a bit more in honouring your father and mother. You could, I don't know, shower with presents, or you could probably take any of the rules and think how you could do a bit more than the rock bottom minimum. But then along came another rabbi whose name is Moses Nachmanides, and he's known as Rambam for some reason. And he said, actually, there are certain things about morality that it's not possible to encapsulate in a rule, and it's not possible to write them down. So that's what this is about. So for example, how you treat people as an individual, how you run your relationships with your family, your work colleagues, your students, if you're a teacher. You have to adjust your response and individualise it to the needs of that particular person, and to make that particular person do well and feel good. And you can't possibly have a rule for that. So that's what this line is about. However, I did think it absolutely covers "you shall not kick your friend in the head," because you cannot possibly write down all the things that you shouldn't do, but it's definitely covered by "do what is right in the sight of the eternal," because I'm sure the eternal does not want you to be kicking your friend in the head. Anyway, so that was the Torah portion.
Sandra?
Yes.
Can I just go back to the Shabbat one? Remember
Yes.
and observe. I think there is a big difference actually.
Okay.
Because I think remembering, you can say it's Shabbat, and observing is, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to light candles? Are you going to say blessings? Are you going to be a bit nice? Are you going to make a special? All these things. And again, going back to your analogy with children, I equated to school rules. I said, do you have school rules? Oh yeah. Why? The best answer is always to keep us safe. But then I say, so I'm not going to ask you about the school rules, but you probably know them all, but do you actually observe them? Because it's all but know that you shouldn't run around and run down the corridor, but do you actually observe that? So I think there is a difference between remembering, and I think we can apply that to Shabbat. Well, what do we actually do about it?
Yeah.
Friday night, we know it's Shabbat. Yeah, and the next stage is the observing.
Although even the first one, the remember, does say keep it holy, doesn't it?
And keep it holy, yes.
Yeah. But,
yes,
yeah.
it goes
Yeah.
But
it's true, yes.
We actually, when we put the two together, to me it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think you need both. Because I think you're observing it. But maybe during the week you reflect on it, you're remembering it. So you're kind of taking Sabbath with you throughout the week, aren't you?
Well, that's true. I'm making preparations.
You're making preparations for the next one, maybe not getting lost in the or something. So I think it's just you've got a day specially to do it, but the rest of the week you may need to remind yourself.
What about the laws the rules where you could go a bit above the minimum? Anybody got any examples?
Maybe prepare better.
Sorry?
Maybe prepare for Sabbath better, that you're not
Yeah.
maybe encouraged to break it because you've forgotten something that you should
Yeah.
do. Hence I strict you.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
I
I was
think
expecting Philip to say, thou shalt not commit adultery, but with how many?
I guess that's one where you could maybe don't want to get into the topic of adultery too much, but I guess that's one where you could do the rock bottom minimum. You could do the minimum, but you could possibly go above. Yeah, I don't really want to discuss this at all.
Isn't it that you talk about honouring your mother, father, mother, whichever way around, and the only time love comes in is to do with our relationship with God, because you can't legislate for love. You can't force someone to feel love. And yet we are asked to love our God,
Yeah.
but not our parents
Or our children.
or our children.
That's true.
Anyone's mistresses.
You shall not steal. That's a straightforward one, but actually, you could go above the minimum amount because some people who would not dream of stealing from a shop will not pay their fare money, for example, on a bus or something like that. It's harder these days, but again.
That's thou shalt not steal.
Yes, but exactly. But people will say that's not stealing.
Doesn't that also apply though to things like reputation? That if you badmouth somebody, you've actually stolen their reputations. So the stealing goes further than stealing
There
from
you
the
go.
shop, not paying your.
Yeah. There you go. So lots of
There are
examples.
lots of ways we can steal.
I'm going to read a bit of Haftarah this morning because this is actually a special Shabbat. Anybody know what Shabbat this is called? This is called Shabbat Nachamu. It's a special Shabbat. I have to tell you what it is, and it's named after the first two words of the Torah reading for this Shabbat, which is Nachamu, Nachamu. Which means, well, we're going to talk about what it means. So, last week probably observed much more in Orthodox Judaism than liberal, but actually OJ did have an event online. It's Tisha B'Av, which is a fast, and it's a day of kind of lamentation and mourning to remember, in particular, the destruction of the two temples in Jewish history. But it's been extended to remember other tragedies in Jewish history, and in traditional Judaism there's like 3 weeks of mourning in the lead up to Tisha B'Av, and then between then and Rosh Hashanah you start a period of consolation, and there's a Haftarah every week for 7 weeks, which is supposed to be comforting and consoling, and the first of them is today, which is Shabbat Nachamu. So I'm going to read a teeny bit of that, which now you may well find if you've got a chumash that follows immediately afterwards. because it's the Haftarah for this week. But anyway, it's Isaiah chapter 40 from the beginning, and I'm not going to read all of it because I'm going to then tell you something about it, which I read, which is quite interesting. So, but I'm just going to do the Barachot on the first one anyway, which is on page 483. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nim tovim v'ratzah v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah Moshe avdo Yisrael amo v'nbi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Okay, I'm going to read it in English, but it begins, Nachamu, Nachamu. Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak to the heart of Jerusalem and call to her, that her time of service is ended, and that her guilt is paid off. Indeed, she has received from the hand of the Eternal double for all her sins. A voice calls out, in the wilderness, prepare a road for God. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be raised up. Every mountain and hill shall be made low. The uneven ground shall become a plain, and the rugged heights a valley. Then the glory of God shall be revealed, and all mankind shall see it together, for the mouth of the Eternal has spoken. So I'm not going to carry on reading the whole thing because it's quite long, but you get the gist. It's kind of positive and upbeat. So, actually, before I do the closing bracha, I will just tell you something interesting that I read about this Nachamu. And this is by an Israeli guy called Rav Yossi Goldin. He's not from the 11th century, or because he's got a website. So, although the classic understanding of the word Nachamu is consolation or comfort, in a number of places in the Torah, the word means something else entirely. It refers to a situation where God reconsiders a decision that's been made and seems to change his mind. This double usage helps us gain a better understanding of the very idea of Nachamu and consolation. The essence of consolation is the ability to shift perspective, to look at the same reality and to reconsider, to see it in a different light. While from an earlier perspective, a tragedy might be viewed in stark black and white terms, as senseless and meaningless, Nechama allows for shades of grey, leading one to perceive a silver lining within the depth of the suffering. While a painful void still remains, the spirit of Nechama begins to uncover divine grace, permitting people to use the painful experience as an impetus to move forward creatively. In short, Nechama connotes the ability to reconsider. This ability to shift perspective, to first mourn a tragedy properly and fully, but then to reconsider the tragedy and search for silver linings as a source of comfort, is fundamental to the Jewish identity and Jewish history. Throughout the generations, from the Egyptian exile across the ages to the Holocaust, we have encountered more than our fair share of horrors and calamities. And yet what has defined us is our ability to rise back up, stronger and more determined. We don't forget the catastrophes that have befallen us. We continue to commemorate them each year, but then we move on and grow. The skill and ability to shift perspectives is an important skill for us to teach our children as well. The ability to experience nuanced emotions, to recognise that something can be tragic, but can also contain aspects of hope and optimism, that requires a certain amount of maturity and must be taught. As our children experience the challenges of life, both big and small, it's imperative that we give them the space to mourn and process the disappointment that comes their way, but that we then teach them the tools to search for the silver linings and positive elements that grow out of those challenges. Perhaps we can even teach them that it's okay to hold both emotions, sorrow and optimism, grief and hope at the same time, because that is part of being human, experiencing conflicted emotions and learning how to navigate within them. This is an important skill that we must cultivate within ourselves, and that we must teach and nurture within our children as well, as we make our way through the vicissitudes of life. I don't know what you think about that. I mean, I thought it was really interesting, and it made me think that out of the Holocaust came the state of Israel, and out of the current conflict, what's going to come, we absolutely don't know. But the message of this is that there will be some good eventually. I think we have to hope and pray that somehow it will lead to peace for everybody. Same applies across the world to other conflicts. But it's kind of an interesting idea that we must always look for the silver linings, and also that this concept of comfort, because this begins comfort, is not just something you receive, but something that you have to contribute towards, because it said this, which I just read, prepare a road for God. Make straight in the desert a highway for God. It means you've got to meet God part way. It's like that terrible joke, this terrible joke about the lottery ticket, don't you? It's kind of, does anybody not know this? Okay, well this is somebody praying to God, why do I never win the lottery? And God says, meet me halfway, buy a ticket. But that is a joke, but it is the fact that we're supposed to put our own bit of effort into recovering. But it's also our duty to comfort other people. And so it goes both ways. So, there we go. So now let's just finish off the Torah blessings and then go on to the concluding prayers. So, we're on page 484. Al-HaTorah Avodah Yahamilim V'al-Yom HaShabbat Hazeh Shenatan Talanu Adonai Eloheinu L'Kedusha V'Le'Menucha L'Kavod U'Tifaret Al-HaKol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu Modim Bach U'Nevarech Imotah D'Itbarach Shemcha V'Tikachai Tamei L'Olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Please stand if you would like. Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for the sovereign King Charles and all the royal family, or at least some of them, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom, justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity. Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue who log on to meet, to study, or to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed. And may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will. Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision, that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem. The scroll is replaced and the ark is closed. So, we're going to the concluding prayers, which are on page 520. Alleluia, Shabbat, Adon, Hakol, Latet, Luhaven, Separation, Asher, Samchal, Kenil, Afed, et Shabbat, V'gor, Alleluia, Buto, V'anam, V'korim, V'mishnavim, V'modin, V'melech, Malkein HaMakim, HaKadosh Baruch, She'unot V'shamayim, V'yosed Haaretz, V'moshe V'yakor, Shamayim V'noha, V'shina Zuzo, V'shina Zuzo, V'gohem V'rohim, V'Eloheinu Einon, Emet Malkeinu V'Vesugato, Kakatu V'Torato, V'data Hayom, V'data Hayom, V'Hashevota, Eloheinu. Ki Adonai hu Elohim, Hashamayim imacha, Yah haaretz mitachat eihod. Let's read together.
Trusting you, eternal God, we have sinned in our glory and pride. Where false gods were banished from our hearts, and idolatry ceased forever. Help us to
Perfect the world, it under your unchallenged rule.
when all will invoke your name, relinquish evil and turn to your will. May all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, to your glorious name let them be known. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity you reign in glory. As it is written, the eternal one shall reign forever.
Ema, Adonai, Lemelech haaretz, Vayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad. Life is finite. Like a candle, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. Then it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. Yet we do not despair, for we know that we are more than a flickering flame. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and light, of death and life. As in our hearts we name our loved ones, we pray that the divine presence will comfort us and all the more. Has anyone listed yachts like this week, which is Jeffrey Golin with Joyce's uncle? And I thought Joyce might be here, but she's on holiday or something. Any other names anybody wants to mention? It's Kadali Kadash Kadash. Con. Bashirata. Please have a seat. I did just remember one thing that I forgot to tell you. I was going to tell you this because that's what happens when you leave your notes at home. I just remembered one thing that I was going to tell you because you're going to like this. When we pointed out that the Shema in the Torah portion, and indeed at the end of the Shema is God, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. And that is referring to mezuzah. Yeah. So I learned something very interesting about the mezuzah this week, which I learned about from my son, because he put it in his thought for the week for Brighton and Hove Progressive Shore, and it struck me because I had been thinking a lot about mezuzot because I finally had a house clearance for my late aunt's flat this week, and literally all that's left there and the mezuzot, which we haven't taken
You're
down.
not supposed to take them off, are you? Supposed to leave them on.
Well, she had them on every single door. I don't know. I don't know if whoever buys a flat will maybe throw them away. I don't know. I leave that to my brother to decide his room. Anyway, this is what Rabbi Gabriel said. And you're going to like this. The Shema, Hear, O Israel, comes from this week's parashah, and with it the commandment to fit the mezuzah to our doorposts. In Ashkenazi Jewish tradition, we nail it onto the door frame at a slant. Yeah? That tradition is a fabulous example of compromise. Rashi, the great 11th century commentator, said that a mezuzah should be fitted vertically. His grandson, Rabbeinu Tam, another great scholar, insisted that mezuzot should be fitted horizontally. How do we decide whose rule to follow? We follow both. So did you know that?
Yeah, knew that.
Did you know that? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I've heard that before.
I didn't know that.
There was another
Yes.
one too that they didn't want that because Christians would put something else there to make the cross. That was another. But I love that one because, as you say, it's Jewish compromise.
It's Jewish.
I love it.
It's a Jewish compromise,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
I think it's horizontally, isn't it? It's not room.
Huh?
It's not room to put them horizontally on that line.
No, there isn't connecting, but maybe people had different kinds of door frames back in the day. So let's close with a song. Has anybody got any particular requests?
The Yiddish one that you've been learning.
Well, we could do Yiddish Adon Olam. We could do that one. Do you know that one?
No.
Do you want to do a traditional one? Or do you want to do a traditional one? There is a Yiddish Adon Olam. Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to hear the Yiddish one. I've never heard it.
Oh, you probably have. It goes like this. Adon Olam Hashem Alai Yabai Terem Kol Yitzim Nivra Yabai La'ed Nasa V'Hesavon Yabai Melech Shemo Nikra Yabai Adon Olam Hashem Alai B'Terem Kol Yitzim Nivra Asai melech shemoni kra. Kol ayababai. Yimloch nora ayababai. Hayavabuve ayababai. Uyeyabatifara ayababai. Adonalam Hashem alach B'terem kol yetzir nivra Nasa B'fezakol Azai melech shemo nikra Uecha v'ein sheni ayababai Lola hafbira ayababai B'li reshit b'li takli ayababai V'lo ha'oz v'ha'misra ayababai Adon olam Hashem alam B'terem kol yetzir nivra Nasa B'fezakol Azai melech shemo nikra ayababai V'tzuchem b'etzara ayababai V'nisi u'manasi ayababai V'nisi b'yom ekra ayababai Ado av kidruchi ayababai V'tishan v'a'ira ayababai Imruchi gapiati ayababai Adonai v'lo ira ayababai Adon olam Hashem alach B'terem kol yetzir nivra Le'ed nasa B'fezakol Azai melech shemo nikra. Into your hand I place my soul, asleep, awake, for you are near. And with my soul, my body too. You are my God, I shall not fear. Shabbat shalom, everybody. And see you soon.